Hey everyone, and welcome to the Defining Your Life podcast, where we focus on living in our purpose, practicing presence, and activating our power in each moment. I'm Marsha Rell, your resident pep talk provider, and I invite you to join me as we continue to learn, lift each other up, and strive to level up together. Because we are never finished defining our lives, and it takes a village, so let's build one. Stay tuned for the episode. Hey everyone, happy New Year to you. I hope that all is well and that your year is off to a fantastic start. As you know, fourth quarter is extremely busy. It was for me and my family. I'm sure many of you have experienced the same thing. But I was both thankful to be able to spend time doing all the things that I wanted, but also being able to rest. Over the years, I've really learned to set aside time for rest because it's really a terrible thing to go on vacation when you may have been, even limping to the end of the year, waiting to get a break from work. And then you're so busy when you're off that you don't rest at all. And you end up back at work, still tired and still drained. I've been making a conscious effort to be better at managing the busyness and the rest so that I can have that balance before heading back to work. And if you haven't been making sure that you have set aside time for rest in some capacity in your life, do yourself a favor and prioritize rest. It is necessary for our well-being, so do what you can to make it happen. I've actually really been looking forward to this period of reset that January brings. A time of refocusing on daily life and plan implementation, because there's only but so much talking we can do about what we're going to do. And January just really brings a get it done energy, right? That I really love and embrace outside of traditionally setting resolutions. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the holidays. I love attending events. I love hosting events. I love being in community. But that holiday energy, y'all, is not sustainable. It will leave you longing for a nap and a smoothie, okay? And so bringing it down a notch or two feels really, really good. And I'm just ready to refocus on life in all of its normalcy and how I can improve my day-to-day experiences overall. Now, the last quarter of 2024, I talked a bit about a few things that I wanted to make sure remain top of mind for me, not only through the holiday season, but also into the new year as well, which included, letting go of multitasking and also being financially responsible with our coins, right? Because multitasking really does impede on our focus. And when you get focused, you can see much more clearly what you could or should be doing in the Department of Finances. So if you haven't, I want to encourage you to check out the episodes, Let Go of Multitasking, as well as How to Stay Financially Disciplined in a Season of Excess from November and December. Now, the episode on finances does center around how to behave during, the holiday season, but it is still very beneficial in regard to getting our money mindset together, even at the top of the year. I believe that our relationship with money impacts how we move about in other areas in our lives, right? It speaks to discipline, the things that we prioritize, our ability to plan, to manage, and execute. And so when I'm talking about money, I'm thinking about all the ways that our relationship with it impacts us. One example that comes to mind is really this concept around feeling like we need to reward ourselves by buying ourselves something nice every time we feel like we've been doing what we need to do and we deserve it. We think that the bills are paid, so we should be able to reward ourselves right now, because who doesn't like a good reward, a tangible item that is, luxurious, or a high-priced meal at a swanky new spot, some cool experience. I know I love all of those things. And why not? Because we're out here earning it after all, right? That's sort of, the mindset that we have about it. But I want to ask you, are we rewarding ourselves responsibly? Is our money working for us? Is it allocated smartly? Do you have a nest egg? Do you have kids that you're planning to help through college? And if so, what does that look like in regard to your bank account? Okay. When you think about a reward in relationship to your responsibilities, is there currently room for reward in a financial capacity? Because there are other ways that we can reward ourselves without creating what could end up being financial burden on the back end. You might need to get a little creative, but it can be done and it can feel just as rewarding. And if we're honest, we know that a little self-denial right now can lead to a greater reward later, including less anxiety, less regret, less financial strain, all things that actually sound really rewarding to me, more so than, maybe that handbag that I had my eye on or that meal that I ate, right? But do we have the self-control to exercise this self-denial? I'd say it's like exercise, at least for me anyway. I don't want to do it. No, I definitely do not want to. Okay. But I know that it's good for me. And I'm not saying, that you have to have 4 years of college tuition in the bank for your kid before you buy yourself something nice. But what I am asking is, are you doing your due diligence? Because I will tell you, I have a 16-year-old daughter, and when you start to prepare for next steps, then you quickly realize that your coins do not stretch as far as you think they do. And you can't just talk about what you're going to do and how you're going to save, because that clock is ticking. Okay, whether you think it is or not, tuition is due and action is required. And so you have to do what you said you were going to do. And that goes for anything that we are facing, right? Yes, I'm talking about finances right now, but anything else that we want to see come to fruition. This is not to say that we're doing something wrong right now, but it's about what we can do better. I really started taking ownership over my finances a couple of years ago when I took a position at a startup company and could no longer rely on a company provided 401k for my retirement. But guess what I had to keep planning for no matter what? Yes, my retirement. It wasn't their responsibility, right? So I was forced to analyze my financial options a bit more closely and make decisions independently outside of, the predetermined options that had previously been available to me through my company. And while less convenient, okay, it did remind me of the control that I have and how the decisions that I make impact my now and future, and how my financial goals don't actually need to fit into the boxes that have already been assembled and placed in front of me. And again, this is just so relevant in so many areas of our lives. So as I continue with ongoing assessments and housekeeping in my own life, I'll continue to share more with y'all because there's always more tidying and tightening up that we can do. And one area that has become a great focus for me is finances, which is why I'm blabbering on about them. Now, I have spent years consuming financial content, and some of those resources I have shared here on this podcast. And I have still only, and when I say dipped my toe, I'm talking about my baby toe into the world a little bit, right? A little bit of financial literacy. There's so much more to learn and to delve into and to also not be afraid of. But again, one thing about time is that it will remind you of all that you have done as well as all that you have not done. And I want to reframe that statement, right? And say that time will remind you of all that we have yet to achieve because we are blessed to still be on the journey and we can still make a change. And so doing things better and getting things cleaned up is more than likely going to require us to do something differently. If not differently, it's going to require us to do more of something that we already do well. But in either case, it's going to require a change of behavior on our part. So what then is the plan? And how are you going to implement it? Again, I used finances as an example, but also if there are any other plans that you have crafted for the new year or even before that you may have abandoned, it applies here too. And I need y'all to know that I am never going to stop talking about the topic of implementation, because implementation is literally the foundation for greatness in our lives. That's why it's so challenging, right? Even if you are great at it in one area, you may struggle with it in another. And so it's going to be an ongoing challenge that we face, but we have to keep striving to improve. So what's the first step? Well, you have to believe that you can actually implement a plan. It sounds basic. Truly, I know it does. But anyone can craft up a plan or even get AI to do it nowadays. But if you don't believe that you can execute on that plan that you have crafted, then you never will. If you set a schedule for yourself that requires you to get up earlier to do something, you can't keep leaning into telling yourself that you're not a morning person. That's preposterous. Have you even tried getting up? Or because you don't feel like it, you don't even try. We got to have some radical honesty here. You have to put in more effort than setting your alarm and hitting snooze. Let me rephrase that. I have to put in more effort than setting my alarm and hitting snooze. And the thing is, I actually don't mind mornings, but it's the peeling myself up from the bed and just getting started that's the problem, right? But I'm not interested in wasting valuable time, so I got to get up and be productive. How about you? What way do you need to get up and be productive? And then affirm yourself, not saying I'm going to try to get up earlier, but I'm going to. I'm going to get up 30 minutes earlier. And you may need to do some other things in order to make that happen. It could be a little prep the night before. Maybe you're shutting the TV off earlier so you can wind down properly. But believe that you have the ability to do it. And then ask for help. You need prayer, ask for it. You need accountability, ask for it. It may not come from your inner circle. That's fine. Step out of your comfort zone, because again, if we're being honest, you might need to reclassify that comfort zone as your zone of hindrance. Okay. Call it what it is. So get out of the zone of hindrance. Don't hold yourself back. Don't allow yourself to get discouraged. And I am so guilty of this discouragement part, y'all, especially in this podcasting space. So if ever a moment when I'm talking to myself, is now, which is mostly all of the moments on this pod, but that's neither here nor there. Roll with me here, okay? But there are literally hundreds of thousands of podcasts in the world today. Hundreds of thousands, which is extremely intimidating. And sometimes I'm like, am I even making an impact? Yes, people say, oh, you find your crowd, you find your niche, you find your people. That sounds good, right? But it's still very intimidating when you think of yourself as a needle in a haystack. And this is how God is, y'all, because on those weeks when I'm like, what am I doing? Okay. What am I actually doing out here in these podcasting streets? I end up getting a word of encouragement back from one of you. And then I'm reminded of my why and that I am in alignment with the purpose that God has for me, which is what matters most of all. I'm not out here competing with anyone. And I hope that you recognize that you aren't either, because it's much easier to put your plan into action when you remove the invisible burden of competition, because it will eliminate the barriers. So ask for help in the same way I ask for reviews or ratings, your thoughts and feedback on here, because we hold each other up and we hold each other accountable. And that is the way that it was meant to be. So tap in. And remember to seek alignment with the purpose that God has for you, because that is sustainable when everything else seems like it's not. And then be adaptable. We think because we come up with a bright idea and then a plan and we plotted it out, that everything should go according to that plan. But the thing about a plan is that often it may need to be reworked. Just because you need to adjust or come up with a different iteration before you get to the finish line doesn't mean it wasn't a good plan. And those steps that you took up into the point of that next iteration were definitely still needed to get you where you were going, because you may not have been able to see where you needed to course correct if you hadn't acted on your initial plan in the first place. So, wrapping things up a bit in a nice bow, here are a few suggestions along with a recap of what we covered today. If you're planning on joining me in implementing any plan in your life, or if you are in the mindset of doing some, life housekeeping to tighten up in this time of refocusing. So number one, I'm going to take it back. Use a vision journal, okay? If you've been listening for a while, you know that I am a fan of a vision journal over a vision board. That's because it's portable. You can carry it with you. I still tape all of my magazine cutouts and all that and into the journal, but I can add my notes and I can list out micro goals that I need to achieve, those visions that I've put in the journal, but I can keep all of that in the same place. I talk about the vision journal a bit more in the episode, The Goal versus the Journey. So if you want to check it out, I'll link it in the show notes. But there's also a great planner called The Visionaries Planner by Deanna Nicole, who was a previous guest on the podcast. So if you're looking for a more structured tool to either use alongside or in place of your vision journal, that's really going to help you plot out your goals, but will also help you manage each day with, time blocks and reminders. I'll link that in the show notes as well so that you can check it out. Number 2 is identify an accountability and prayer partner, aka ask for help. Okay. You might even have more than one partner. Sometimes one person is great for holding you accountable in one area while someone else in another. Or maybe you only need help in one area right now. But find that person who will not only call or text you to see how you've been doing with your goals, but can also offer solutions and suggestions to help you on the journey. Number 3 is affirm yourself. Affirm, affirm, affirm. Whatever it is that you are working on implementing, create an affirmation to reinforce it in your life. Like I mentioned before, if you need to get up earlier, we don't say, I'm going to try. We say, I'm going to. So claim your success in advance, shift your words, and shift your mindset. Write the affirmations down and post them where you can see and recite them often. And remember that an affirmation assists in the reprogramming of your mind. And number 4, prioritize your finances. They should be front and center, okay? They're not scary. They are real. They are very real. And it may feel a little scary, but you're making them scary by tucking them away. So remember the impact that it's going to have on you beyond your wallet when you put together a budget or consider saving or investing. How you handle your finances is in direct correlation with planning and implementation in other areas of your life. So you can't have all these other areas of your life all together and then you put your finances in a box in a corner and never address them and expect continued success. So I'll share a quote from Lori Greiner today. You can always find a solution if you try hard enough. Listen, y'all, implementing your plan is finding a solution, okay? It's your roadmap to achieving your goals. Every time you achieve something on that plan task list, you are one step closer. You are clearer, you are better, you are more aligned. So I pray that you are ready to refocus and make 2025 a year you won't want to forget, because you will have experienced the transformation and alignment that you have been searching for. Thanks so much for listening today. If what you have been hearing has been beneficial to you, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the pod. Share the episode, tell a friend, tell a stranger. Do all the things to help grow the community because we are stronger together. And as always, please send your feedback my way and share topics you'd like to chat about. And I can't wait to chat with y'all all again next week. So take care until then.